Yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee met and adopted an amendment to H. 5399, which proposes outlawing almost all abortions in the Palmetto State. Abortions where the death of the mother or serious bodily injury are a legitimate medical concern are not included in this ban. The amendment makes it clear that it is not going after contraception or IVF. However, it does not include a carve-out for victims of rape and incest, which is an issue that is concerning to both Democratic and Republican lawmakers. Let's hear what Representative Seth Rose had to say on this issue at yesterday's hearing.
Heaven forbid a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old becomes pregnant, is raped by a relative. This legislation will take the decision from the parent themselves. You want to talk about government overreach. And again, the haves versus the have-nots. Those that will have the financial resources to do what needs to be done for the right thing on their family. It's just a personal decision between a doctor, loved ones, and someone's God that we should not be interjecting ourselves into.
Representative Seth Rose wasn't the only Democrat to voice his displeasure. Let's hear what Representative Justin Bamberg had to say.
If my niece gets raped, leaving school right now and gets pregnant, she has to have a baby. We're gonna do this. I'll tell you this, I'm going to jail. I'm not letting my 10-year-old niece have a baby, and I don't care what the state of South Carolina says about that. I don't. There's a lot of good lawyers in here and a lot of good lawyers in the House. I am sure someone will help represent me. That's not right. It's not. We talk about Christianity, this is like BC type mentality. It's that archaic.
I spoke with multiple people before and after yesterday's hearing, and one of the people I spoke with is a young woman named Savannah Dietrich, who represents Students for Life. I wanted to ask her about the rape and incest exception and where her organization stands on that, since it's one of the most morally challenging issues facing anybody considering implementing abortion legislation. Here's what she had to say.
It is absolutely terrible and a heinous crime that a rape, and women need all the support and help that they can get, and the rapist should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. However, that does not mean that an abortion is going to solve that issue and is going to bring justice to that crime. It's actually going to add more pain and trauma. There are many counselors and people that are therapists that have had to have post-abortion counseling because abortion is traumatic. It brings, and later down the road, many women have said that has haunted them their entire life after they've had an abortion. Abortion, it just adds further trauma to that rape. And many women that have chosen life after rape have said that it was the biggest blessing, and it helped them to heal from that horrible crime that was committed upon them. And we are here for those women that have been raped and to help support them through that process. But killing their child is never the answer to a crime, and the baby did not have any choice how they were conceived, and they should not have to be punished for their father's crime.
So you've heard one side of that issue from Democratic reps and another side of that issue from a pro-life activist who was in attendance yesterday. I also had the pleasure of speaking with the president and vice president of the University of South Carolina College Democrats. I had posed them a question basically saying that it's an inevitability that South Carolina's legislature will pass an abortion ban, and I went on to ask them what they thought might be some important priorities for Democrats and moderate conservatives to try to get added to that bill, and they gave a rather interesting response.
I actually full-heartedly disagree with the assertion, because we all thought about that about Georgia, and then they voted for 2 Democratic senators and for a Democratic president. So if this bill gets held up in the House for long enough, then we could get a Democratic governor or more Democratic House members, or some people may have a change of heart seeing that culture is not going their way and vote with their conscience instead of their party leadership, is what I personally think.
And Representative Collins, I think that was his name, made a pretty good, yeah, he was the one who said that he voted for the fetal heartbeat bill, and he's seen the negative repercussions of this, and maybe somebody will have a change of heart.
While I personally believe that they might be being overly optimistic, I do think that hearing Representative Collins' testimony is worthwhile, so let's cut to that.
I voted for the pain-capable bill, the fetal heartbeat bill, and fetal heartbeat has been for 6 weeks now. The second week that the fetal heartbeat bill became law, a doctor called me out of Anderson. I live in Easley. A 19-year-old girl appeared at the ER. She was 15 weeks pregnant. Her water broke. And the fetus was unviable. The standard of care was to advise her that they could extract or she could go home. The attorneys told the doctors that because of the fetal heartbeat bill, because that 15-week-old had a heartbeat, the doctors could not extract. So their only choices were to admit the 19-year-old until that fetal heartbeat stopped. I asked, how long does it take to stop? She said, seconds, minutes, hours, maybe days. Or discharge. They discharged that 19-year-old. The doctor told me at that point, there's a 50% chance. Well, first, she's going to pass this fetus in the toilet. She's going to have to deal with that on her own. There's a 50% chance, greater than 50% chance that she's going to lose her uterus. There's a 10% chance that she will develop sepsis and herself die. That weighs on me. I voted for that bill. These are affecting people, and we're having a meeting about this. It took that whole week, I did not sleep. I followed up with the doctor a week later. She had heard nothing, did not know about the 19-year-old. Thank God I followed up 2 weeks later. She did return to the ER. They did extract the now non-beating fetus. What we do matters.
Thank you, Representative Collins.
1 second, Mr. Chairman. I'm almost finished. Out of respect for the process, I'm not voting today. But I want it to be clear that myself and many others are not in a position to vote for this bill without significant changes to the bill. And
as Representative Newton said, if we pass this out as favorable, you'll have an opportunity on the House floor. So the question before us is favorable reading or favorable passage of 5399.
You might have noticed Chairman Murphy moving things along towards the end of that clip, and that was actually not the only time that happened during this hearing. It happened on multiple occasions, angering both Democrat and Republican members of the committee and members of the General Assembly, as we've heard from multiple tipsters inside the legislature today. And the college Democrats actually talked about this, so I'll throw back to them.
I thought it was all kind of ironic that, the Republicans were so adamant about how they're protecting the health of women who get pregnant, but then all of the evidence that was presented to the contrary was promptly cut off by the chairman. So they really didn't care about the health of the mother because they've sort of made it impossible for anybody who is disadvantaged in South Carolina to access that kind of health care.
Yeah, I find it very hypocritical that they even mention that they can't block you from driving to another state, saying if you have the money, you can go do that. And then Rep. Murphy was just hilariously terrible today in the way he would just knock on the table to get someone to shut up, or he would just totally disregarded the rules of the House and admitted so himself. So he doesn't really care about the democratic process, just shoving his own legislation through and getting his donor dollars at this point, because that's what he does all the time, and that's his history. So not really surprised, but sad.
Right. It's not going to be him that's affected by this bill. It's going to be poor people, people of color, people with disabilities, even people living on this college campus. So it seems really like erasure of everybody else's opinions except for his own.
It's clear that there's going to be severe restrictions on abortion in South Carolina. It's more of a question of what exceptions exist and the exact verbiage of the law. And as I was recording the audio for this video, it has been announced that the South Carolina Supreme Court has blocked the enforcement of the heartbeat bill being the 6-week abortion ban that currently governs abortion in the state of South Carolina. Well, currently governed abortion until about 58 minutes ago. So keep it tuned to FITSNews as we continue to cover all of the breaking news and developing negotiations in the South Carolina abortion debate.